here, Canadian Looney. Good morning. Thank God it's Friday. It's been a pretty crazy week in the House of Commons. Lots of things happening. Guilbeault's on his way out. Jolie's on her way out. Freeland's already gone. They're clearing out the cabinet. Who are they going to replace him with? Zuccarelli? Come on, give me a break. Anyhow, we've got a great show lined up. This is the pre-show. We've got some very interesting clips from committee. It was a wild evening last night in the House. That's for sure. Anyhow, like, share, subscribe, smash that like. Let's see what kind of crowd we can gather here on this Friday morning. Thank God it's Friday. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. We've got so many clips to jump into. We're going to just do that. Let's kick it off. Good to see everybody. Let's watch some Canadian federal politics here on Canadian Looney. Get your Canadian federal politics right here. Let's kick it off. Canadian federal politics, the Canucks are represented by two separate yet unequal groups. The globalists who sold out and the opposition trying to salvage a country. These are their stories.
The official language that you wish to participate in today's meeting is selected on the device in front of you. Make sure you're on the channel that gives you the proper interpretation. If there is an issue with the translation, please get my attention. We'll suspend while it is being corrected.
Mr. Chair, can I just get your... So, Chair, I wanted to raise something with respect to the process on the witnesses for today. I'm really looking forward to hearing from these folks, but we did submit. Every party has the ability to submit different witnesses. We did submit 39 witnesses as a Conservative Party, and none of them are here today. I'm very interested in hearing from the witnesses we have at the appropriate time and in the appropriate way. But 13 witnesses submitted by Liberals, 39 by Conservatives, and it just so happens that none of the Conservative ones were booked today. So I'd like to move the following motion, that during its study of the Temporary Foreign Worker Program, the committee direct the chair to be fair to all parties in his selection of witnesses, to consult with the vice chairs before finalizing witness panels, and to have 5 to 6 witness groups appear at each meeting. And I will submit that motion by email to the clerk in both official languages. It should be, Mr. Clerk, arriving in your inbox now. So I'd like to now say a few words on that motion. It's established practice that committees, in the process of examining important issues, should seek to ensure that all perspectives are heard in the course of its study on important issues. And I'm certainly interested in hearing all perspectives. I'm interested in hearing the perspectives of witnesses invited by other parties. Sometimes witnesses invited by other parties end up agreeing with positions we've taken and vice versa. But in order to ensure there is a substantial, diverse and balanced conversation on the motions that come forward, the protocol is supposed to be that every party submits witnesses, and that the chair allocates those witnesses not based on his or her personal priorities, but based on roughly the proportions of the parties. And I know there are some variations here. There are some cases where a party may not submit enough witnesses to cover for their allocation. There may be cases where there are issues of availability if there's a smaller number of witnesses. It's hard to believe that there were issues of availability here. And just thinking back to the process, the deadline for submitting witnesses was, I believe, November the 14th. So it has been, I think, about 2 weeks since we submitted our witnesses. So if your office received 39 different witnesses on this study, all of which should have been fairly easily reachable, and within 2 weeks you couldn't find even one of those 39 witnesses to include here, raises some significant issues around the process. I know as well the Bloc submitted witnesses, and none of the witnesses submitted by the Bloc are here either. So I think we want to work collaboratively. We want to make sure this is a good study at which all perspectives are heard, but we don't want a situation in which the testimony is unbalanced. And looking at the witness list, I think you can see pretty clearly that Conservatives did our homework. We submitted with fewer resources. The government has access to vast resources available to it to identify suggested witnesses, and we have much less, relatively speaking, in terms of resources. And we submitted 39 witnesses compared to their 13, and we have 2 witness groups from the government. So this is not how I think we should proceed. I think we need to have committee hearings that are respectful of those standards. So with that, Chair, I'd like to move that we adjourn the meeting.
There's been a motion to adjourn the meeting. It's dilatory. So I will ask the clerk to call a vote on. No, there's been a motion to adjourn.
J'avais levé la main auparavant.
I had raised my hand before.
No, there has to be a vote. If you vote in favor of adjourning, the meeting will be adjourned.
Appel au règlement. Est-ce que
Point of order.
No, you cannot raise a point of order while
Maintenant.
it is
D'accord.
being voted.
Merci.
No. There's been a motion to adjourn the meeting. It's dilatory, and it must go to a vote. Recorded vote on, and if you vote in favor, the meeting will be adjourned.
Madame Koutakis.
No.
Madame Desrochers. No. Miss Fancy.
No.
Monsieur Joseph.
Je ne peux pas m'exprimer avant le vote.
Can I speak before the vote?
Miss Falk. Yes. Mr. Dennis.
Yeah.
Miss Goodrich.
Yes.
Mr. Reynolds.
Yes.
Madame Gill.
oui?
The meeting is adjourned. Meeting adjourned.
And I am let it be known that as a courtesy, I'm allowing the Conservative member to have 5 minutes with the witnesses. Mr. Strauss.
Thank you, Chair. So my questions today are for Dr. McPherson. Dr. McPherson, thank you so much for coming today. It means a lot on behalf of the people of Kitchener. Thank you for coming to serve our community. And beyond that, thank you for coming to committee today, because you're not just serving Kitchener now, you're serving the whole country of Canada. So we're really pleased and proud to have you here. I'd like to ask some questions at a high degree of granularity, because I think individual cases help us to understand what is actually going on with immigration for healthcare professionals. If I ask you any questions that are prying or you don't feel comfortable answering, just please let me know. Don't feel compelled to answer anything. We spoke a little bit before the meeting. By your lights, now you've practiced in both countries. You've practiced all around the United States, as you told me. Is there any reason ER doctors in general in the United States wouldn't be able to practice in Canada tomorrow?
Not that I'm aware of. I haven't found any really significant differences in the practice patterns that would prevent an American physician from practicing in Canada.
Fantastic. And overall, when you decided to come to Ontario, what barriers in terms of getting your license recognized did you meet?
I actually found the CPSO process for licensing to be fairly straightforward, just quite long. But I would say that compared to kind of the confusing process of British Columbia, Ontario's CPSO compares favorably.
I'm pleased to hear that. When you say long, how long do you mean?
It took me a few months to get the documents together. A lot of that includes getting official copies of transcripts from medical schools, which have to be mailed directly to the CPSO, and those are sort of the rate-limiting steps. If you are really dedicated, you can get it done within 2 or 3 months.
I see. So, I mean, I would say, I won't ask your opinion on this, but I would say I think that if you hold a license in Oregon, it's probably the case that you passed all your med school courses. And it's a little bit strange to me that they would insist on verifying those documents in particular. You spoke a little bit about the provincial nominee program and how that was giving you a hard time because of some terminology that I think pretty obviously needs to be changed. But may I ask, which immigration program are you currently here on and working under?
So I'm currently here on a temporary work permit, which will expire after 3 years.
I see. And then beyond the provincial nominee program that you're speaking about, are there any other federal immigration programs that you have evaluated or considered or engaged that could take you on the path to permanent residency?
I'm not aware of any other pathway that would be viable for me. I am trying to improve my French to get some additional points for my application.
Tell me a little bit more about that. How would improving your French improve your ability to buy a home in Kitchener, Ontario?
So if I can demonstrate a certain level of French, then I can potentially apply for express entry as a French-speaking skilled worker, which is an alternative pathway.
I see. And so if you were to be evaluated and meet criteria to be a French-speaking skilled worker, you would have an easier time achieving permanent residency to work in Kitchener, Ontario as a emergency room physician?
Yeah, I mean, essentially it's a completely different pathway, which I don't think has any specific bearing on being a physician. It's really just any skilled professional who is fluent in French can qualify for an alternative pathway to express entry.
All right.
1 minute.
I'm honestly a bit flabbergasted by this. Could you tell me which languages other than English you encounter in the emergency room in Kitchener, Ontario, say by frequency?
I think quite a few of my patients are Indian, and so speaking various language from India. I've had quite a few patients who speak Mandarin, Arabic. I don't think I've had any patients who speak French and do not speak English.
I see. It seems to me, I won't ask you to speak to this as you're going through the immigration process, but it seems to me that this could be rationalized in part. And then, so could you speak a little bit about if you continue to have difficulty achieving permanent residence status, either through the PNP program or any other program, what hardships does this cause you? Does it put you at risk of going back?
I mean, the short-term issue is that there's a 25% foreign investor tax on purchasing a home. So I'm living in a rental house with my husband and children, which is not a position I've been in quite some time. It's not ideal. We would love
Thank
to
you.
be
We've
able-
gone 21 seconds over time, Mr. Strauss.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I wish to thank the witnesses for being here, and I wish to thank them for giving their time and their expertise to the answers. I also want to thank the committee for being generous enough to give the Conservatives an extra 5 minutes time for questioning because no one else got that. So thank you for that courtesy. And I now adjourn the meeting.
Chair?
Yes, Mr. New?
I just moved to adjourn the meeting.
Yes, meeting's adjourned.
Chair, I object.
Nice rules.
Selection of cookies and coffee at the back, chipped in by the taxpayer. So anyways, congratulations. Thank you very much. We will now turn things over to Mr. Kelly for 6 minutes. Mr. Kelly, welcome back to OGO.
This one gets out of hand, guys. This is our Treasury Board President, Shafkat Ali, and he is a disaster. Sorry to interrupt. Let's get right back to it. Oh my God, this guy is impossible.
Thank you. It's good to be back here after an absence of quite a number of years. But Minister, you said that you're going to reduce and that there's a plan for reduction of full-time equivalents. Public service right now, or at least September 2025, was down to 346,000, heading for a goal of 330,000. Much of the reduction that you were to make has already occurred. You've got a few more to go with volunteer, and you said mostly through voluntary reductions. So why have you refused to provide the parliamentary budget officer, and through him parliamentarians, information to help us understand the personnel reductions that you have planned?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your question, Pat. It is a really important question. A comprehensive expenditure review is aligned with our government commitment with Canadians to spend less and invest more, and to balance our government operational budget in next 3 years. That's exactly what we're focusing on. Your question towards the PBO's letter, my team will be working to respond to his letter as soon as possible, but the timing was not reasonable when the letter came in, because we haven't finalized those details, and it would be unfair as an employer for us as a government to give those information to PBO before communicating with public service employees. So we'll be providing a response to PBO.
Well, wait a minute, Mr. Minister. On October 30th, you told this committee that you would release the information of the comprehensive spending review to the PBO, and you have failed to do so.
I think it's we said it that we will provide as soon as possible. It was the details were not finalized at the moment, and it would have been unfair.
Was the cabinet briefed? Was the cabinet briefed on the reductions?
May I respond to your
it sounded like you're
please?
repeating your response.
No,
to the
I'm not
first
repeating.
question.
I'm giving you that reason that it would not have
Rappel au
been
règlement, Monsieur le
reasonable to
Président.
provide those information to
Point of order,
third.
Mr. Chair.
Interrupt, Madame.
Les interprètes font un travail extraordinaire.
The interpreters are doing extraordinary work, but when we don't give them time to complete before the other person takes over, we can't ask them to do a miracle. I would like to receive the complete interpretation in French, Mr. Chair.
Thanks. Go ahead, Mr. Kelly. But, Minister, he did ask a very straightforward question. I think the committee, parliamentarians, and Canadians deserve a straightforward answer. Mr. Kelly, I've restarted the clock. You have 3 minutes and 20 seconds.
Okay, thank you. Was Cabinet not briefed on the reductions?
I would say that the details were not finalized, and we would not be able to provide the information to PBO until we communicated with public service employees. We're dealing with as public service employees' livelihood. Okay. We thank them for their services, and I think it would have been unreasonable, unfair to have those information to someone else prior to communicating with public service employees. So that's a reasonable, responsible way of doing.
No, some would say it's an unlawful response. The Parliament of Canada Act allows the parliamentary budget officer access to that information. You are denying information to the parliamentary budget officer that is clearly laid out in the Parliament of Canada Act.
No, sir, we are not. We will be providing information to public PBO, and I can ask my deputy to fill you in further on that, please.
We'll have time for the deputy in the next hour. On what hour, what date? Will you do it by the end of today?
As soon as possible. We will provide.
Okay, that sounds like what you might have said on October 30th. So, would be today or tomorrow then that we'll have.
What I can commit, we will provide as soon as possible.
That's I'd like a date, time.
I don't have a date. I will provide as soon as possible.
Does the information not exist?
We have to communicate with the public service employees. They're the impacted party here, and this is responsible. This would be unreasonable. Okay. For as an employer to communicate to someone else before communicating with the public service employees.
No,
we're dealing with the livelihood of the public service, and I think it's fair that we communicate, finalize those details, and communicate with them before
Minister,
we release it to PBO.
You are asking parliamentarians to vote on these estimates while denying parliamentarians the information that they are entitled to in order to assess the estimates that you have tabled. It is not acceptable to you. You are not free under the Parliament of Canada Act to pick and choose what you think is a fair or correct order of things. So I will ask you again, will you commit by tomorrow's Friday, by tomorrow afternoon, will you comply with the lawful request for information by the Parliamentary Budget Officer, yes or no?
Mr. Kelly, let's not play politics on the lives of the public service employees. Within my legal authority, we have presented in the Parliament main estimates, and you have all the information there, but you're asking about PBO date. Within legal authorities, as soon as possible, we will be able to provide.
I think it is very telling that you think parliamentarians are playing politics when they ask for information to which they are entitled in order to study and assess estimates that have to be voted on behalf of taxpayers. You don't have the choice to decide whether or not you release the information.
Chair, those information is already. Chair, it would not be fair that if I don't have a time to respond to his question, would not be fair.
Minister, time is up. Mr. Gasparo is up next. Perhaps he will allow you some time, but the time is up. Mr. Gasparo, if you wish. Otherwise, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Minister, would you like to respond? You can take up some of my time, or do you just want me to?
I would say that we're dealing with here public service employees, and I'd like to thank them for their service to Canadians. This is their livelihood. We're finding savings, we're balancing the operational budget, we're finding saving and investing in priorities where matter most to Canadians, like housing, infrastructure, defense. PBO sent that letter, and my team will be providing a response to that letter. But it was just 5 working days. The time was given. We have not finalized details at the time, and it would have been totally unresponsible and unreasonable for us to provide those information to PBO prior to providing into the impacted or affected parties, which is public service employees. So that is my response. I just wanted to pass it on. And main estimates, that is before the Parliament. So all the details are there. So that was, I just wanted to.
Fine, we'll go to Mr. Patzer for 5, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Minister, over the last 10 years or so, there's been close to $9.9 billion returned to Treasury Board from Department of National Defense. I am just wondering if those funds are being made available again to the Canadian Armed Forces, or if those funds have been put back into consolidated revenue.
As my understanding, that's additional funding for Canadian Armed Forces. But if it's from last 10 years, you have a question related to, I'm going to ask my deputy to. You don't want to know the details?
The short answer is they're available, Mr. Chair, for the department. Those funds continue.
You can table them with this committee after if you have that information. I appreciate it if you could just, if you have them, table them after the committee. I have another question I'd like to ask the minister for. You also said, Minister, earlier that there was $1.1 billion in new spending that was in these estimates here. Is that $1.1 billion as part of that total figure, the $815 million that was returned 2024, 2025?
Can you? This is a technical question. I'm going to ask my deputy to respond.
Well, you said it was no. It's not. You said it was new spending.
You don't want. Look, I have.
You said it was new spending. Is it new spending, or
certain you want to get the right information, or you just want to don't want to get answer? So.
Well, You're the minister of the Treasury Board. You are the stopgap on where money goes up.
We are here, all committee. You have a question. You want to get an answer. So I want to give you a proper answer. So let's clear that. What you have a question in mind. So just 30 seconds, please.
So.
Have the information. If you could table it with this committee afterwards, I would greatly appreciate that. Thank you very much. There's the estimates request $476 million for the future fighter jet capability program. Is that earmarked for F-35s, or is that just a general number?
I think it's those are the questions to Minister of Defense and Finance Minister. I think it's I can ask my colleague, or we can get in touch with them.
Minister, it's in the estimates, and it's from the Treasury Board too. So
35.
Okay,
so, but
it's
F-35. You want to get the right information. I think it's but it's F-35, but it's specifics. Minister of Defense would be able to answer those.
Okay, is that
so F-35? I just told you.
But is it to upgrade the facilities? Is it as part of the purchase of the F-35? Like what's it for?
It is to. Then again, it's a technical question you're asking. I think it will be fair. I'm going to ask my deputy to.
The point here is, when you get a request for money, do you personally review it? Or do you just get a piece of paper, stamp it, and away it goes?
Those submissions, the team worked with it, and deputy he's a secretary of the Treasury Board Secretariat. So we both do it. So if it's he's giving that response, it's not that one person does that job. It's a team works on that. So
you read the requests as they come across your desk?
Of course I read.
You read all the requests as they come across your desk?
I try as much as I can.
Okay.
I think I can pretty much absorb a lot.
Okay.
So
good.
Maybe if I could, Mr. Chair.
You know what? In the second hour, you might have a chance. Yeah.
So you don't want to know the answer then?
I want you. I want to know that you know the answer.
So
you're the minister.
I know the answer, but it's a technical. Okay. But then let's use this time wisely.
Minister, I'm going to interrupt here, and I have to stop the clock. It is the member's time. I will allow him to ask the questions. We'll go on. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Do you have a request on your desk to send more taxpayers' money to Canada Post?
I am not aware of that. I will check with my department and let you know.
Okay, because these estimates have over $1 billion. I know that was the previous request, but there's reports now suggesting that they are going through that money a lot faster than they were planning to. So I'm just curious, do you have another request from them or not?
I don't have that on my table.
Okay, it's a repayable loan. Are you going to, is the taxpayer going to get that money back from Canada Post? Do you know?
What I can say, I don't have that request on my table at the moment. I'm not aware.
Are you aware of the terms of the deal that Canada Post got to receive the $1 billion?
We can provide that details to a committee.
Are you aware of it, though? The question is, are you aware of it?
It was given prior to me becoming president of the Treasury Board. So I think I was not as a president at the Treasury Board when that was given.
Thanks. That's our time. We'll now go to Mrs. Jansen, please. 5.
Thank you so much, Minister. This is how I understand it. One of your core responsibilities is oversight of government spending, like especially when there's numbers that reach into the billions. Earlier this week, we learned that the Minister of Industry and her deputy minister did not review the Stellantis agreement in its entirety, a deal publicly reported to be around $15 billion. So naturally, we're wondering if anyone actually reviewed the whole thing. So my question to you would be, and I realize you weren't there, but perhaps your colleagues can help. Did the Treasury Board see the full Stellantis contract before approving $15 billion of spending?
Thank you for the question. As my colleague, you said that I was not there, and I can I can ask if you allow.
Please,
I'd
yeah.
ask my
I'd like it's
deputy to respond
yes
to
or
your
no
question.
if you saw the full contract.
Normally, the way this would work is the department responsible, they actually review the contracts. They would get authorities from the Treasury Board to go ahead and transact deals, but it would not involve a page-by-page contract review.
Okay, so you didn't see the whole thing either. Okay, so that's an interesting. So the Minister of Industry didn't see it, the Deputy Minister didn't see the whole thing, and the Treasury Board didn't see the whole thing, and you're approving billions. Minister, respectfully, how does a contract of this magnitude clear your department without anyone reviewing it?
As Deputy just stated that there are delegated authorities to ministers. So there's certain authorities are delegated to ministers. So if those agreement or contracts submission, they are under those authorities, they can go ahead and get into contracts.
Sorry, Mr. I'm just have a question now for Mr. Ali. I'm just wondering, are you concerned that if the industry minister and the deputy minister went to Treasury Board for approval of $15 billion without reviewing the full agreement, are you concerned about that? Is my question. Does that seem like a good process?
I think we actually have a robust process and procedure and rules in place, and everyone is adhered to follow those rules. And if the authorities are delegated to ministers, they are bound by those rules and regulations and policies. And I expect everyone follows those rules. And if someone does not follow, there are rules to deal with it.
So, but if I understand it, you are the person who has to worry about, or whoever was at the time, you have to be concerned about spending oversight. It's your job to make sure that they've actually fulfilled those obligations, right? That the spending is justified, the risks are understood, the department has done its homework, taxpayers aren't getting taken for a ride. Is there something we can do to ensure that someone is held accountable for not actually fulfilling those things, if we're not even checking?
There are rules in place for oversight, and there are guidelines. There are authorities delegated to ministers, and if anyone goes beyond that or not follow those guidelines and policies, I think there's a mechanism to deal with it. They should be held accountable.
Do you know, Minister, if anybody has read the entire contract?
That contract was not in my, I was not a president.
Mr. Matthews or Mr. Trudell, no? Has anyone read the entire contract?
There would be people both from the Justice Department and in the department ISET itself that would have reviewed. I will take back to see if there was anyone within TBS that reviewed the entire contract, but the bulk of the work would have been Justice and the line department ISET.
Okay. So my biggest concern, honestly, is if we rubber stamp a bad deal because we don't know who's read what, aren't you supposed to be the ones that say, okay, hold on, does this actually make sense? Isn't that what the Treasury Board is about? Your name is on the bottom of the check.
Thank you. I agree with you that we we're accountable to Canadians. We need to be transparent, and we take every precaution.
You believe that there is a mechanism to...
time. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Ms. Kelly, go ahead, please.
We'll just watch a couple of moments of Khalid.
To the Minister and to colleagues for attending today to answer these questions on Supplementary Estimates B. I'll start with talking a little bit about the public service, if that's okay. I know that it's been a bit of a roller coaster ride with public servants between COVID to now, in terms of working from home and then being asked to come back to work, and then between full time, part time, half time. So My question is specifically about the early retirement options that public servants have been asking about, and what that might mean for job security across the public service. So I'd like you to maybe speak on how the government is approaching this in a way that protects our workforce, and it reassures employees of the future as well. And it ensures that any workforce adjustments minimize involuntary departures as well. We want to protect the public service.
Thank you, my colleague, for the very important question. We're going through a challenging time. This is a new norm of global economic shift. What we're dealing with. And then we have made the commitment with the Canadians in this mandate that we will invest, we will spend less and invest more and balance our operational budget in the next 3 years. And that's exactly what we're doing. What we're trying to do is trying to find savings and investing in the priorities that matter most to Canadians, which is housing, infrastructure, and Canadian armed forces, which means there's more opportunities on those areas, Canadian Armed Forces, housing. By doing so, we're also focusing on Buy Canada approach as well. And to me, this is a very challenging and difficult issue that we're dealing with the public service livelihood. And this should not be to me, this is not a political issue. This is a real issue that impact is on those public service employees, not only on them, their families. So we do it in a way that we find other tools and options that minimum impact will have as an involuntary workforce adjustment. So there is early retirement option. There is incentives, early retirement incentive, and there is attrition. So that is the mechanism we have, and we haven't finalized the details yet. But still, team is working on it, and I can ask Bill if he can shed light on this one, because this is a really important issue, and we do in a way that we will not hurt people's livelihood.
So the early retirement incentive is designed to allow employees who don't have meet the age requirement to retire without penalty to retire without having that penalty. It does not award them additional pension benefits. It just avoids the penalty. The regime itself does require legislative approval, so it is in BIA 1, and so we will be working through the details and then moving to implement once the proper approvals have been achieved.
Thank you. So, Mr. Matthews, since we were chatting earlier, I have a question for you specifically on the contract again, on the Stellantis contract. On Tuesday, the Department of Industry told us that no single lawyer reviewed the entire Stellantis contract. They specifically said, to my amazement, that legal isn't even present during negotiations. So they explained that only a few lawyers would have seen select parts of the contract. So if there's no single lawyer who's reviewed a contract of $15 billion, would it be responsible for the Minister of the Treasury Board to sign off on the spending?
So again, Mr. Chair, in terms of how the agreement and the deal was reached, I wasn't there. I can't really comment on that. I'll go back and listen to that testimony with great interest. Again, we are dealing with the parameters. So it's Cabinet makes decisions that establishes the parameters of a program or an initiative or a deal. And if the department's proposal to Treasury Board respects those parameters and respects Treasury Board policies, then the responsible minister is given the authority to go ahead.
Okay, so would you expect that lawyers would have combed through that humongous $15 billion contract with a fine-tooth comb to protect Canadian taxpayers before it came to you?
I would expect that the responsible departmental officials in Justice and I said, and maybe others would have reviewed all relevant material, and I will go back and listen to that testimony with interest.
Okay, so earlier Minister Ali said that there's mechanisms to deal with people violating TBS guidelines. Could you tell me a little bit more about that?
Sure. So Treasury Board policies and Treasury Board directives are mandatory, and there's a way for a department to seek an exemption if warranted, and Treasury Board can grant exemptions, or I can grant some. Where you've got departments who are not respecting Treasury Board policy, there are things Treasury Board can do. They could remove delegation for contracting authority or for HR authorities, etc. So it effectively would be, the most common one would be additional reporting, or an improvement plan. If it's too severe, then you would actually see pulling back of contracting authority.
Okay, so would you consider not having at least one lawyer look through the entire contract? Like I say, I was absolutely stunned when they said they don't have legal during negotiations. And then on top of it to say, well, no one single lawyer actually sat through the entire, they were parsed out pieces of the contract. Like, would that have broken the rules? That seems to me like very unusual for a $15 billion contract.
So I can't speak to what happened in this case. The normal case when I was in line departments, when you're reviewing a major agreement or deal, is you would get legal advice as part of that, and they would sign off on this. I cannot speak to the detailed process that the department follows.
So you are saying it would be the norm that Treasury Board would expect that there would be proper lawyer oversight before it comes to you for signing?
There would, before a department reaches a deal, there would be legal risk analysis and a sign-off of some sort. You're not going to find that in a Treasury Board policy. That's just my own expectation, and it's my experience as well.
And you know what? Honestly, I would expect that as just a regular Canadian taxpayer, that you would have proper legal oversight. So it just kind of blew my mind when they mentioned that.
Well, as I said, Mr. Chair, I will go back and read that testimony. So I'm
yeah. So that was Stephanie Tanton that said that. She was very clear at the Tuesday meeting. So. The job of the Treasury Board, you're there to ensure that things like there's provisions to protect the Canadian jobs in the agreement. Is that correct?
Again, it would be the parameters of if there's a program involved, which is a series of agreements, there would be parameters in the program that they would need to respect. My recollection of the Stellantis is that it's not a particular program; it's a one-off agreement. The parameters of that would have been approved by, not by, like the broad parameters, not approved by Treasury Board. They would have been negotiated by the department. Okay. So
you would have nothing to do of ensuring that there were job guarantees in that. Whose job would it be to ensure there were job guarantees in order for that? Because I know, like from what I understand, the Treasury Board is that has to make sure spending is justified, risks are understood, the department has done its homework, and taxpayers are getting.
Thanks. We'll go to Mrs. Block for 5, and then Madame Gaudreau.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Matthews, according to the TBS website, GC Infobase, in 2024-25, Public Safety Canada set a total of 28 goals, and 14 of them are sitting at 0%. This is a department where 98% of the executives received bonuses in 23-24 when they met only 35.7% of their goals. The department is requesting an additional $43 million in supplementary spending in these estimates. And I guess my question for you is, given the Treasury Board sets the policy framework for how bonuses are awarded, what do you have to say when 98% of executives receive bonuses within a department when they haven't even met half of their stated goals?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So again, you would have to look at which goals are not being met and why. So if there are goals that are not being met because the required approvals weren't taken, et cetera, or something was delayed, you have to really dig in and determine what the cause is. In terms of those results and how we are monitoring at TBS, we are launching a new risk and compliance framework that will help us better assess how departments are doing in terms of where they're carrying risk, and some of those risks could be around delivery. In terms of, Treasury Board Secretariat involvement in the awarding of performance pay to executives, that is up to the department's deputy head to make those determinations in terms of whether their executives are meeting what was asked of them or not. And so we don't have line of sight into those decisions. That is a deputy head decision.
But the Treasury Board is responsible for setting the policy framework. When you see incidents like this, where a department is not meeting even half of the goals they set, regardless of what the excuses or reasons may be, has the Treasury Board had a conversation in regards to reforming how bonuses are rewarded?
So regarding performance pay and linked to departments achieving their published targets or results, I have not had any of those conversations. I can tell you, in terms of the approach we take at TBS for our own employees, we are looking at whether the executives met the expectations in their own performance agreement. Some are tied to delivering on certain programs, and some are not. Some are more corporate related. So you really have to understand why the targets are not being met, and then the link to the executives before passing any judgment, I think, on whether there's a bigger problem.
Thank you.
To avoid another digital nightmare. Colleagues, if you don't mind, I just have a couple of quick questions for you, Mr. Matthews, and a couple of maybe just for an answer and a couple maybe take away with you. I'm glad Mrs. Block brought up the issue about the bonuses and the lack of, alignment with what's achieved. And I'm glad it's brought up because I've brought it up in public accounts, probably many different ministers and many different department heads, and the excuse is always, or the answer is always, well, we follow Treasury Board guidelines. And I'm sure I can, if you wish, I can go through all the blues from the many times we brought it up, but they always blame Treasury Board. Yes, we failed massively, but we're only following Treasury Board guidelines. So I think the onus seems to be placed on the guidelines. You mentioned about not passing judgment. I think when 98% of executives and management are getting bonuses when results are failing, I think it was, according to GC Infobase, 47% of the results were not achieved. Previous year was, from memory, close to 50. Previous year, 53%. So we have this massive failure, and departments are always saying, well, we're just following the rules. So I'll put that back with you. I just want to follow up. I'm glad you talked about departmental plans. I noticed, and when you look at the departmental results, fully 19% of last year's departmental results didn't have or had no results available. And then, and I brought this up, and I know you're probably laughing inside because we bring this up every year for the last several years, or to be achieved in the future. And of course, the estimates are based on a one-year achievement. I'm hoping that you will actually stop that procedure or practice in the departments where they're actually presenting departmental plans to Parliament, but without actual goals attached. So I do appreciate that. The stretch goals, I wonder if you could get back to us. I know you mentioned, okay, departments are missing because of stretch goals. We actually go through and look, and a fair amount of where they've missed the results, they've actually dropped less than last year. And if you look at the departmental plans, I'd be happily bet money more than 50% of the goals for next year are actually below what they actually achieved the previous year. So I don't think it's because they have stretch goals when most of them are actually showing lower, their goals are to actually achieve less than they have previous years and the previous year before that. So I'll just leave that with you. I do have a quick question. I want to follow up with Mr. Kelly, who's left the room about the PBO and the CER. Like, the PBO wrote to the 5 departments asking for the information. He didn't write to Treasury Board. He wrote to the 5 ministers. But the Comptroller General responded, like, who directed her not to provide the information to the PBO? And I am going to see, like, it was October 30th we asked the minister, and he said yes. I know October 31st, the cabinet was briefed by the Comptroller General and others on the CER, but still not released. Who would have directed her to refuse to hand over the data to the PBO that's required under the Parliament of Canada Act?
So a couple of points in there, Mr. Chair. One, the decision for the Comptroller General to write to the PBO and say, we're unable to respond right now. It was not an...
All right, gang, sorry to interrupt, but we're going to cross over to question period now. I'll release all this stuff in other videos. We'll get back to it, but what a frustrating committee meeting that one was. That Shafkat Ali, man, what a dirt dog he is. Anyhow, we're going to slip right into question period. We've got a Conservative on the floor. Let's get this going.
Forward to for infall is going to be, of course, Brookfield. And let's not forget, last week this Prime Minister gave a $500 million contract to the European Space Agency, who is housed on property 50% owned by Brookfield. And also, let's also not forget that 3 days after this Prime Minister had a meeting with President Trump, the President personally signed an agreement for $80 billion with Brookfield for nuclear energy. And just this week, the CEO of Brookfield testified at committee saying, when Brookfield does well, the Prime Minister does well because of how many shares he has in Brookfield. So the question that Canadians want an answer to is, with 2.2 million Canadians going to a food bank every single month, why is the focus of this Prime Minister to enrich Brookfield and himself?
The honourable member for Hamilton Mountain.
As a kid at Christmas, all I wanted to unwrap was the latest Little House on the Prairie or Nancy Drew book. And as I hit my teens, it was all Margaret Atwood. Her books informed my feminism, inspired my sense of humor, instilled in me a lifelong love of dystopian fantasy fiction. Earlier this week, at the start of 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, I saw her on stage in Hamilton in front of 1,500 rabid fans. And I was reminded just how powerful a woman's voice can be. This event was for Interval House of Hamilton, which supports women fleeing violence and trains men and boys to avoid hyper-masculine misogyny. I've read them all, but my favorite Margaret Atwood is the Mad Adam trilogy, where we read, we must be a beacon of hope, because if you tell people there's nothing they can do, they will do worse than nothing. Beacons of hope, like Margaret Atwood and the Interval House, remind us we can all do something about gender-based violence.
Wow. The honourable member for London Fanshawe.
Madam Speaker, Canadians pay their taxes and expect fairness, but surprise, surprise, the Prime Minister budget did nothing to inconvenience powerful corporations like Brookfield from enjoying Canada's two-tier tax system. Canadians cannot ignore that not long before taking office, the Prime Minister served as chair for Brookfield, a senior position of a company now known for pushing tax avoidance to the max. During an ethics committee meeting, we heard that Brookfield is the most aggressive tax avoider in the country, shifting profits into offshore havens and dodging $6.5 billion in Canadian taxes. And while this government protects these loopholes, it saddles Canadians with the biggest budget in our history. Workers pay for it twice. Once through higher taxes, and again through the hidden inflation tax that follows the massive deficits and drives up the cost of everything. Families in London deserve that better than a system rigged for insiders. Conservatives will fight for fairness.
Yeah.
The Honourable Member for Barossa. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today, I am extremely proud to mark the exceptional achievement of a youth robotics team from our riding of Barossa. They received the gold medal in the first global challenge, becoming robotics champions of the world, to Araf Alam Chaudhuri, Ashley Carolina Vasquez Cabrera, Donovan Manlius, Iad Zabi, Justine Dubuc, Ken Lee Sui, Manuela Christie Nzali Wakem, Raul Andre Vargas Ramirez, Sarah Kaidi, and Taha Buhu. These youth brought home the gold in the first global Panama Robotics Championship. These youth are writing the story of the future of Barossa, Quebec, and Canada, a future of robotics. Thank you, and they're here in Ottawa right now.
The honourable member for Richmond Hill South.
This Liberal Prime Minister called himself the master negotiator, bragging that he alone can land a deal with President Trump on July 21st. He puffed out his chest, promised elbows up, and told Canadians he was ready to fight. But now that he has failed, he shrugs, saying, who cares? And that he doesn't have a burning issue to discuss with the president. In months, he went from lacing up his gloves to throwing up his hands. He hasn't negotiated. He has surrendered. And while he wanders the world of photo ops, our workers are getting knocked to the mat. Well, Conservatives care, and so do the 40,000 manufacturing workers in Ontario whose jobs have vanished since April, not because of global forces, but because this Prime Minister fumbled the negotiations and left Canada without a deal, without a plan, and without a lifeline. Those workers don't have the luxury of saying who cares, because their mortgages care, their grocery bills care, and their futures care. So will the Prime Minister look those 40,000 workers in their eyes and tell them he actually cares about their jobs, their paychecks, and their livelihoods? Or will he just keep throwing up his hands, walking away from the table, and saying, who cares?
The honourable member for Cape Breton, Canso and Tigonish.
Madam Speaker, it's not for me to rock the boat, but what's the deal with last week's vote? We won the thing, so I won't gloat, but Robert Fife, I'd like to quote. He spoke about some sneaky deeds where two were hiding in the weeds, which serve the Tories' voting needs. Embarrassing, the headline reads. Their outline makes it all but certain the two were hiding behind the curtain. With a snap election, they were flirting, credibility shot, their polling hurting. They tried to blame it on the app, but fact and fiction showed a gap. The answers shared were all over the map. It sounds to me like a pile of inconsistencies. So what is it? I'll try to say, next time try to make your way into the House and make our day by voting for the BIA.
Oral questions.
Here we go.
L'honorable député
Who's
de
up first?
Mégantic.
The honourable
Pretty empty
member
house
for
today.
Mégantic, l'érable,
Oh, Lord.
Lobinière. More and more Canadians are wondering how they're going to manage to make ends meet, but not the Prime Minister. He gets a little richer every day, since he's able to make decisions to benefit his company, Brookfield, for example. After meeting with the American president, he came back with nothing for Canadians, but a lot for his company, which managed to sign an $80 billion nuclear energy agreement. We are told that he manages cabinet like a private company. Well, indeed, why do the profits end up going into his pockets while Canadians always end up paying the bill? The Honourable Government House Leader. Madam Speaker, this morning, Canadians are very pleased with the results of our incredibly powerful economy. The best in the G7. 2.6% growth over the last quarter. Madam Speaker, what does that mean? It means opportunities for our youth. It reflects our defense investment, our economic investments. It's the result of our hard work with the provinces to meet the economic ambitions of all of Canada. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-l'Érable-Lobinière. Before becoming Prime Minister, the chair of Brookfield moved their headquarters to New York. Before he became Prime Minister, the chair of Brookfield created 3 investment funds, one of them over a bike repair shop. All of this to avoid paying taxes in Canada. That's called tax evasion. And the former chair of Brookfield, now that he's Prime Minister, is raking in the profits by taking government decisions that favor his own company. Why does he continue to act like the chair of Brookfield, placing his interests ahead of those of Canadians who are picking up the bill? The Honourable Government House Leader. Madam Speaker, I sympathize with the official opposition because they don't have any idea what to do in this situation. Every day, practically, the other side of the House is left having to deal with the fact that we're having amazing economic growth, that we're getting results. For example, this morning we heard 2.6% growth over the last quarter. That means jobs. That means rural economic development. The results are in, Madam Speaker. We are building Canada strong.
Very South Minister.
Prime Minister's trust may be blind, but the math is not. This week, we found out from Brookfield's chief operating officer that the Prime Minister stands to make millions in carried interest payments from his company's success related to climate and infrastructure schemes that he set up. Many, if not all, of the public financial instruments, funds, and policies the Prime Minister started pushing when he was pulling Trudeau's strings as his economic advisor in 2020 align with Brookfield's strategy and success. How is it ethical when the Prime Minister is using the power of his office to benefit him and his company?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday I met with the operating engineers all across the country who came to talk to me about the investments we're making in building Canada strong. And Madam Speaker, they're so excited about the work for their members. And as a proud mother of an operating engineer, I couldn't be more thrilled as well. These are great jobs for young people, for tradespeople all across the country. This is how you build a country strong, Madam Speaker. You invest in the workers of today and tomorrow.
The Honourable Member for Barrie South Minister.
Brookfield COO also confirmed that the umbilical cord between the Prime Minister and his company will stay attached until 2034 because the fund the Prime Minister set up will mature then. That means if it does well, he does really well. But here's the problem. He knows full well what's in his blind trust and is using the power of his office to promote policies that benefit his company and him. AI, modular housing, carbon capture, nuclear, and the transition model of public risk for private return he set up while advising Trudeau will make him millions. How is this ethical, if not illegal?
The Honourable Minister.
Canada's GDP growth last quarter was 2.6%, blowing out the economist's projections, Mr. Speaker. That's what growing Canada strong looks like. It's an investment in the potential of the country, but it's an investment in right now. We have the highest rate of women ever in the workforce, Mr. Speaker. You know why? Because we have an affordable child care agreement. And yesterday, Saskatchewan signed an extension, 5 years, $1.5 billion, to make sure we can not only get women in the workforce, but keep them there. And one more thing, Madam Speaker, $10 a day has been achieved in Saskatchewan. That's real action. That's partnership with provinces and people.
The Honourable Member for St. Albert, Sturgeon River.
Madam Speaker, the Prime Minister has vast conflicts of interest with Brookfield. That's why the Ethics Commissioner specifically told him not to meet with Brookfield. Despite this, the Prime Minister secretly met with the Chief Operating Officer of Brookfield in October. So a simple question, why did the Prime Minister violate the clear direction of the Ethics Commissioner?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Madam Speaker, the member's resort to personal attacks and dealing in conspiracy theories speaks to a larger issue. A member from the province of Alberta today unable to celebrate the agreement that we have achieved that his own premier is celebrating in public about the opportunity to protect the environment and create good jobs. If he won't stand up for Alberta, I, as somebody from the East Coast who spent 5 years there, absolutely will. The GDP numbers that we've seen come in the past quarter, seeing it go up 2.6%, means good jobs for people and food on the tables for families. We're here to create jobs. It's a shame the Conservatives are opposed.
The Honourable Member for St. Albert, Sturgeon River.
Conspiracy theory, the Ethics Commissioner told the Prime Minister not to meet with Brookfield, and then he did so. Now, this is a Prime Minister that was the chair of Brookfield and who stands to make tens of millions of dollars from in future bonus pay and from stock options. And not only did the Prime Minister clearly violate the direction of the Ethics Commissioner, he attempted to cover it up by not disclosing the meeting. Is this the Prime Minister's idea of ethics?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Madam Speaker, I think my colleague has left his tinfoil hat in the men's room before he attended question period here today. He's here talking about things that do not matter to the people at home as much as things like doctors, jobs, lower taxes. Frankly, Madam Speaker, it is a shame that members of this House of Commons are simply not focused on the priorities of Canadians. The GDP has increased 2.6% in the past quarter. The last jobs report showed 67,000 new jobs. Every month since the Prime Minister has held that office, wages have increased faster than inflation. Madam Speaker, we're going to stand up to build an economy that can stand on its own 2 feet, advance major projects, create jobs for people at home. I wish they'd support it.
The Honourable Member for Gaspésie, La Madeleine-Listigouche. Madam Speaker, this is no time to celebrate. Yesterday's agreement with Alberta is climate betrayal. Instead of announcing one more dirty oil pipeline, the Liberals are saying there might be several, in addition to expanding Trans Mountain, which would mean at least 1.4 million additional barrels of oil per day. The Liberals are also openly threatening BC. They are saying they might force through their oil fantasies, which is one of the worst documented cases of predatory federalism. This is an incredibly aggressive policy, both on climate and in terms of provincial jurisdiction. How can these MPs continue to justify this? The Honourable Government House Leader. Well, Madam Speaker, do you want to talk about provincial jurisdiction? Let's speak about Quebec's ambitions on development, mines, critical minerals, renewable energy, clean energy. Our approach, Madam Speaker, is giving results. 2.6% of GDP growth over the last quarter. What does that mean? That means that in my esteemed colleagues' riding, mothers and fathers will be able to have hopes for their children and good jobs throughout all of Quebec's regions. The Honourable Member for Gaspésie-La-Madeleine-Listigouche. Madam Speaker, these Liberals' oil folly is climate betrayal, and betrayal towards voters who thought that voting Liberal would be greener than voting Conservative. It's a betrayal towards Liberal members who ran on green values. It's a betrayal towards victims of the increasingly frequent natural disasters. These victims were hoping that elected officials would be held accountable. So the real question isn't why the member for Laurier-Sainte-Marie left cabinet. The real question is, how do the other Liberals manage to justify staying in this government? The Honourable Government House Leader. Madam Speaker, we stand strong on this side of the House. Why? Because, unlike the Bloc Québécois, we will stand up to our election promises. We promise to build Canada strong. We promise to respect provincial jurisdiction and to cooperate with provinces. And yes, Madam Speaker, we promise to reassure all of the mothers and fathers in Canada who are hoping that their children will have an economic future that is as prosperous as ours. That is what we're doing. We're meeting our commitments, and I would invite the Bloc Québécois to do the same. The Honourable Member for Côte-Nord, Kawa-Chikamat-Nitassinan. Madam Speaker, Quebecers know very well what it's like when Canada decides to completely ignore provinces' needs. And today, it is BC that is suffering its own night of the long knives. The Liberals in Alberta decided to sign an agreement without BC to force it to accept a pipeline, claiming that it's for national interest reasons. Quebecers should start worrying because the federal government has wanted to add a pipeline along the St. Lawrence for over 10 years. If this is what the Liberals are doing today, are they planning to do the same thing to Quebec? The Honourable Government House Leader. Madam Speaker, this morning I got good economic news. 2.6% GDP growth. And you know what BC is not saying? Oh, we need the Bloc Québécois to defend us. We will work closely with BC. We will do so because we have a duty to consult and respect BC First Nations. That is what we're going to do. We are going to do all of that, Madam Speaker, and we don't need the help of the Bloc Québécois, which only wants to split the country.
And Clark. The Prime Minister's priorities are clear. He has gone from elbows up to putting his hands in the air and saying, who cares when it comes to negotiating for Canada. However, he's still working hard for the interests of Brookfield. Right. We learned in the recent budget that the Liberals are giving $500 million to the European Space Agency. Unreal. Guess who owns 50% of the UK campus where those funds are going? You guessed it right. Brookfield. Why does this Prime Minister continue to put his financial interests above the interests of Canadians?
Brookfield strong.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Madam Speaker, let me remind the member that we are doing very, very well. We woke up to tremendous news this morning, and he can rest assured that our government is entirely focused on building on our economy and on supporting industries and workers that require our help. We were elected to build Canada, and that's exactly what we're doing. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Member for Northumberland Clark.
We continue to hear these old, tired lines from the so-called new government. They tell us again and again, Canadians have never had it so good. Here's the reality. Food bank usage is at record rates, over 2 million per month. Meanwhile, Brookfield stock has gone up by over 20% since the Prime Minister got elected. Maybe that's just a coincidence. Why do Canadians have to continue to suffer while Liberal elites get wealthier and wealthier?
Brookfield strong.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Madam Speaker, let me remind the member who comes from the same province that I do that we're actually helping invest in Darlington New Nuclear Project in Bowmanville. It's a project that is going to build 4 new small nuclear reactors, the first of its kind in the G7. It's going to provide clean, reliable electricity to power 1.2 million homes. It's going to reduce our carbon emissions, and it's going to create 18,000 good-paying, quality jobs for the people of Ontario. Madam Speaker, why don't the members opposite get on board and support a plan that is actually growing our economy 2.6% this year?
Honourable member for York Durham.
To get elected, the Prime Minister promised to negotiate a win. But now that the election is over, he says, who cares? Canadians were promised a Churchill, but what we got was Chamberlain. He appeased the U.S. president by dropping the digital services tax. He appeased the U.S. president by withdrawing our softwood lumber challenge. But appeasement didn't get us any trade peace. We thought we got nothing, but in fact, he just got nothing for Canadians. Brookfield got an $80 billion nuclear deal. Is that coincidence or cause and effect? Why does it appear that this Prime Minister continues to put his private interests ahead of those of Canadians?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of
Madam Speaker, it is really challenging to take the Conservatives at their word when they're trying to purport to care about Canadians. I mean, they vote against everything, even with the word care in it. That's right. Dental care, child care, pharma care, even health care infrastructure to build hospitals in my community in Durham region where that member is from. They won't even support that. So you want to show that you care, step up to support major projects in this country that will create, like the new nuclear project at Darlington, creating 21,700 jobs in our region, and that member voted against it.
Shame on it. Honourable member for York Durham. Order!
Canadians and Conservatives care about the integrity of the highest office in the land, the Prime Minister. The conflict of interest rules are clear for members of the House. They are to arrange their private affairs in a manner to avoid real or apparent conflicts of interest. An $80 billion nuclear deal for Brookfield, $500 million to the European Space Agency to benefit Brookfield, undisclosed meetings with Brookfield executives. These raise serious issues of conflict of interest. Why does it appear that the Prime Minister continues to put his private interests ahead of those of Canadians?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
This member would rather question the loyalty of our Prime Minister, who is securing deals all around the world to drive investment into Canada, to protect jobs, who's stepping up with packages of support for tariff-impacted industries. This member won't even stand up to support a hospital in Durham region with the healthcare infrastructure funding that we put in the federal budget. He won't stand up to support a major project that will provide 1.2 million homes in our region with clean energy and 21,700 jobs. How can he say he cares about anybody but himself?
The Honourable Member for Montmorency Charlevoix. It's Black Friday, but no deals for Canadians. This week we learned that the Liberals gave $500 million to the European Space Agency, which is 10 times more than the former agreement under Justin Trudeau. And who holds 50% of that campus? Brookfield does. Once again, the Prime Minister is placing his own interests above those of Canadians. Or in fact, he's harming Canadians. He's harming investment here in the country. And he's harming jobs in Quebec and Canada. Why can't this Prime Minister place Canadians above his own interests? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's pretty simple, Madam Speaker. Everything we're doing is to help Canadians. The Conservatives are trying to pretend they care about ethics to distract people from the real work we're doing. In the budget, there is a series of measures that will help our economy and workers. Ports, roads, work with Hydro-Quebec to increase their production, mines, jobs. That's what it means to build Canada strong. Let's stop trying to distract people and let's work on what really matters. The Honourable Member, Madam Speaker, the devil is in the details. Yesterday, the Liberal government made a number of announcements in Alberta, and the Prime Minister once again found a way to benefit himself. He announced a carbon capture program. But who holds the technology for that type of mega project? Brookfield does. When Brookfield makes money, so does the Prime Minister. Why is it that every time there's an announcement, it seems that the Liberal government is going to look at the list of Brookfield's projects to pick and choose its own projects. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Well, Madam Speaker, what I would tell my colleague is that we are working closely with all provinces and sectors. This government was elected to build a strong economy, a sustainable economy, and a future for our children. And the proof that our approach is working is that today our productivity is going up. That's great news, Madam Speaker. Our policies are working, and I would ask our colleagues to join us and vote in favor of these measures.
For Richmond Hill South.
Every time this Prime Minister talks trade, it seems to be closing deals for his old firm Brookfield, while Canadian workers and taxpayers are left out in the sidelines. He went to Washington, and Brookfield walked away with an $80 billion nuclear deal. He went to London, and Brookfield got over $500 million for the European Space Agency. He hosted Swedish royalty, and Brookfield announced an AI deal with Sweden. Now he's forcing Alberta to pour billions of taxpayer dollars into carbon capture just to get a pipeline, exactly where Brookfield holds major stakes. So when this Prime Minister said he will build at a scale and speed not seen in generations, did he really mean just for Brookfield and not for Canadians?
The Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, it appears that my honourable colleague has not really been cognizant of what the Prime Minister's been doing. $70 billion, Madam Speaker, and a financial commitment of investment from the UAE. We can also list the Philippines, Indonesia, Germany, Thailand, the Philippines, India. These are the trade deals that we're embarking upon, Madam Speaker. On the other side of the House, what are they focused on? Issues that Canadians are not going to benefit from. We are here for Canadians, building Canada strong.
The Honourable Member for Beauharnois, Salaberry, Soulanges, Huntington. Madam Speaker, we are shocked by what we've heard from the new Minister of Natural Resources. Yesterday, while he was commenting on the departure of the Minister of the Environment, he said that those who care about what the Liberals are doing on oil are simply nostalgic for the past and looking for silver bullets. Apparently, caring about the environment means you're just nostalgic. It's very concerning knowing that this is someone who is close to the Prime Minister. They've been close ever since they were both young bankers at Goldman Sachs. So is it true that for the Liberals, fighting climate change is just a matter of nostalgia? The Honourable Government House Leader. Madam Speaker, the Minister of Natural Resources was referring to the fact that the current economic situation has just changed. I think that all Quebecers understand very well that we are in a new era. Our trade relationship with the U.S. and the entire world has changed. So that means that we have to secure our economy. We have to work with the provinces. We have to meet our economic objectives. We have to launch big renewable energy projects, critical mineral projects in Quebec. We said we would build the country, and that's what we're doing. The Honourable Member for Beauharnois, Salaberry, Soulanges, Huntington. Madam Speaker, what I'm hearing is shocking. The same minister also said that any Liberal colleagues who are concerned about this are just naive Boy Scouts, according to the Toronto Star. So apparently in Canada nowadays, you can be the Minister of Natural Resources and think that being worried about the proliferation of dirty oil pipelines is just a matter of magical thinking, nostalgia, naivete, being a Boy Scout. I don't even think the leader of the Conservatives is that much of a climate skeptic. How can it be that Quebec Liberals continue to support what we're hearing from a minister like that? The Honourable Secretary of State. Madam Speaker, we had a province that was having difficulty joining with us on fighting climate change and climate and emissions. And now today, that same province has now agreed to an increase in the carbon price and has also agreed to reduce its emissions, methane emissions, by 75%. 75% decrease in methane emissions. And in order for the project to occur, we need an agreement with BC. We need an agreement with First Nations. And we need a backer. The Honourable Member for Beauce. Madam Speaker, the U.S. has brought in devastating tariffs, 45% on Canadian softwood lumber. And recently the Prime Minister was asked if he had spoken to Donald Trump about trade, and he said, who cares? Well, I can tell you that in Beauce, people do care. 8,000 jobs depend on softwood lumber in Chaudière-Appalaches. Those people definitely care. Madam Speaker, will the Prime Minister rise today, look those 8,000 workers in the eye, and repeat, who cares? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Thank you, Madam Speaker. In rural areas, we need our forestry workers. We need our Canadian softwood lumber. We are all proud of that sector in Canada. In my own riding, I have proud forestry sector businesses. This week, we announced significant measures to support that sector. We know that these times are very difficult. And when that happens, we support each other, which is what we are doing to support the forestry sector. We will settle these problems with the U.S. Meanwhile, we will help the sector. The Honourable Member for Beauce. Unlike the Prime Minister, Madam Speaker, we care about the softwood lumber sector. What the sector needs is not a loan program. That won't replace the $780 million of salaries that are currently being received in the region. The Prime Minister promised he'd reach a deal with the Americans, but instead things are getting worse. Companies don't need loans. They want a trade agreement with the Americans. That's the key market for their sector. So will the Prime Minister stop saying, who cares? Will he sign a softwood lumber deal with the Americans, yes or no? The Honourable Government House Leader. Madam Speaker, I will not listen to the Conservatives on the matter of softwood lumber. We are in a trade war, Madam Speaker. And when it comes to softwood lumber, that trade war has been going on for decades. We are here to help people. Unlike the Conservatives, we are supporting workers. We are supporting our businesses. We are modernizing and diversifying our products. And we are ensuring that Canadian softwood lumber is used in our major housing projects in Canada. That's what we're doing.
Prince George. In 2006, our Conservative government negotiated an end to the longest softwood lumber war. We negotiated a 10-year agreement with a 1-year grace period, which this government squandered. These Liberals have failed to do this in 10 years. 10 years! Thousands of jobs. Over 30 mills closed in the province of British Columbia. The Prime Minister ran an entire election on a false premise that he was a man with a plan, that he could get the job done. Now he says, who cares? As our lumber industry is crippled and communities are decimated.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Madam Speaker, we are in a trade war. We are in a very difficult situation, and in that situation, this government is standing with those affected workers. We are moving heaven and earth to help them. We just announced another $500 million of supports 2 days ago. The member is fully aware of this, and we are open to more ideas for more supports. Now, we had a take-note debate the other night. I asked the Conservative members for their ideas. Do you want to know how many ideas I got from them? 0. How about we get some ideas on the table? We are happy to support. We are happy to work with you to support. Let's get some ideas on the table.
The Honourable Member for Prince George. You want a flipping idea what to do? Get a flipping deal done. 10 years. 10 years. 10 years. Madam Speaker, another week, another mill closure in my riding. That's 100 direct and indirect jobs lost. That's hundreds of thousands of taxes for our municipalities. That's $1 million of taxes from our community of 100 Mile. Do you want to know who matters, Madam Speaker? It's the families that lost their jobs. That's who matters. Get their job done. Get agreement. Will the Prime Minister come to our region, tell them, look them in the eyes and tell them that they don't matter?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Madam Speaker, helpful ideas like just get a deal done are not going to get the deal done. We need ideas. We need support for workers, the workers you and I both care about. How about we work together to help this industry instead of these histrionics in the House? How about that?
The Honourable Member for Oshawa.
Clapping for
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister was asked whether he had spoken to Trump about trade, and guess what he did? He brushed off the question saying, who cares? He may not think it's a serious matter, but Conservatives do, and so do auto workers in Oshawa and across Ontario and Quebec who are seeing their jobs disappear. Thousands of auto jobs are leaving Canada, and workers justifiably feel their jobs don't matter because this Prime Minister said so. So if the Prime Minister won't fight for Canadian auto workers, then who is he fighting for? Brookfield?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Madam Speaker, I would like to ask this member what she cares about. Does she care about health care, access to critical care and health care in our region? Because she voted against Budget 2025, including the Healthcare Infrastructure Fund, which will fund hospitals and healthcare facilities all across Canada, including in Durham region. Does she care about 21,700 jobs at the new nuclear project in Darlington? Because she voted against that as well, Madam Speaker. It's clear that she doesn't care about our region.
The Honourable Member for Terrebonne. Madam Speaker, NATO has long been a cornerstone of international rules-based order that has delivered peace and stability since the Second World War. Next week, our allies and partners will meet in Brussels to address the conflicts and challenges facing our alliance. Can the Minister of Foreign Affairs inform this House how she plans to represent Canada and work with our allies to advance our interests ahead of this important meeting?
Bonne question.
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs. Madam Speaker, I'd like to thank my honourable colleague for this question. And next week, I will be at NATO to discuss very important issues with our allies, for example, Ukraine, the Arctic, and our collective defence. With an investment of $80 billion in the 2025 budget, we are here for the Canadian Armed Forces and our defence sector. Canada will always do its part for the collective defence of our country and the protection of our country. Parkland.
Madam Speaker, yesterday the Prime Minister promised Canadians a pipeline. Maybe, someday. He's not sure. Meanwhile, the Environment Minister can't even say the word pipeline, and another minister just jumped ship. This isn't a grand bargain, it's a grand ransom. The only thing certain is that Canadians' industrial carbon taxes are going up. Canadians have sacrificed a lot, and all we've received so far are vague Liberal promises. Will the Prime Minister tell us what year we will see shovels in the ground on a new oil pipeline to the West Coast?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House.
Madam Speaker, we had yesterday a very comprehensive display of meeting the ambitions and meeting the moment in Western Canada, in Alberta, making sure that we have a better path to fighting climate change, a higher price on industrial carbon. Premier Smith has signed on to a radical set of new measures to make sure we have clean electricity, to make sure we build data centers, to make sure we build nuclear energy. And you know who's going to do all that? Canada's building trades people, the men and women of Canada's building trades. We're going to be building Alberta strong, building Canada strong.
The Honourable Member for Parkland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Notice he didn't say pipeline. As part of the Great Ransom, taxpayers will be required to invest billions to pump air into the ground. Meanwhile, by pure coincidence, I'm sure, the Prime Minister's company, Brookfield, is the largest investor in carbon capture company Entropy. The Prime Minister is using taxpayers' funds to underwrite his company's investments. Brookfield's $300 million investment in Entropy is already backed by $200 million in taxpayers' funds. That's not Canada strong, that's Brookfield strong. How much does this Prime Minister stand to gain by forcing Canadians to fund his carbon capture projects?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Madam Speaker, tinfoil is actually made of aluminum, so I'd like to thank the member for her first act supporting that sector in this House. The facts of the matter are this. Yesterday we announced an MOU with Alberta that increases economic prosperity for this country, that increases environmental sustainability and the durability of environmental action in this country, and it makes us less reliant on the United States. That's a good day for Alberta. That's a good day for Canada. I welcome the member's office to get on board.
The member for Abbotsford South Langley.
Madam Speaker, this week we saw reports that the BC Liberal caucus is seething, anxious and angry of the Prime Minister's pipe dream to the Pacific Coast. To keep them quiet, he even gave the BC Premier a veto on the project and will increase the industrial carbon tax that will only make everything worse. When the Prime Minister said he would build at a scale and speed not seen in generations, did he mean taxes, not projects?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Madam Speaker, yesterday was a great day for Canada because it got us onto a better course of action and more common ground and confederation between Alberta and Canada, which will also lead to a better course of action across the entire country. Part of the agreement was that we would work with British Columbia, we would work in a tripartite table, and of course we all respect the Indigenous rights of peoples. This is great for Canada, this expands our markets, this expands our economy, and this makes environmental action more durable.
The honourable member for Abbotsford South Langley.
Madam Speaker, families need stronger paychecks and affordable energy. But instead building pipelines to the Pacific, the Prime Minister gives us more paper, more delays, and more vetoes. The MOU guarantees nothing except 7 months of waiting and 2 years of federal studies. When will the Prime Minister finally get out of the way, give Canadians a firm construction date for the West Coast pipeline, or will this be another Liberal broken promise?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you very much, Speaker. This Prime Minister is focused on making sure that we're creating good-paying jobs for all Canadians. We are investing and building things like they've never been done before. We're making sure that we diversify our trade, so we're investing in our ports right in British Columbia so that we can export more to other markets like the Indo-Pacific. That is the focus of this government. That is the focus of this Prime Minister. We will not rest until we create good-paying jobs for all Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Similton and South Okanagan, West Kootenay.
Miss Speaker, Liberal MPs in BC are telling the media they are, quote, seething, anxious and angry about a pipeline that would end Canada's economic dependence on the United States. The Liberal caucus is falling apart over this. The Prime Minister must not give his Keep It in the Ground caucus or Premier Evie a veto. Only he has the constitutional and legislative power to approve a pipeline today. Will he ignore the naysayers and approve it today, or will he offer more delay?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Madam Speaker, we're committed on this side of the House to cooperative federalism with the province of Alberta. But we remain committed and we remain respectful of Aboriginal and treaty rights, as well as the free, prior, informed consent of communities entrenched in UNDRIP. And so we're going to continue to respect these rights. It's not only the right thing to do, but it's also the law.
The Honourable Member for Similton and South Okanagan, West Kootenay.
Madam Speaker, let's be clear what was signed yesterday. A memorandum that will hike the industrial carbon tax, and in exchange, the Liberals will allow a pipeline proposal to be further studied for the next 2 years. There are no timelines for approval, and many Liberals are demanding that the timelines be never. This Liberal caucus is divided. Will the Prime Minister ignore them, forget the tax hikes, and just approve a pipeline today? Or is this pipeline a pipe dream?
Yeah. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary for the Minister of Immigration.
Madam Speaker, the slogans continue on the other side. What is lacking is seriousness. They condemn a decision signed by the Premier of Alberta. Yesterday was a great day for Alberta and for Canada. This government was elected on a policy vision to ensure more jobs in this country, economic stewardship and environmental stewardship at the same time. We will maintain that vision from start to finish. I invite the member to join us.
The Honourable Member for Vernon Lake Country, Munishy.
Madam Speaker, we hear that the BC Liberal caucus is, quote, seething, anxious and angry about a possible pipeline, so the Prime Minister is appeasing them by hiding behind the provincial NDP like Brookfield hides behind Caribbean tax laws. After 9 years of Liberal energy mismanagement, Canadians want a pipeline. Will the Prime Minister do his job, stop the political games, and immediately get shovels in the ground on this oil pipeline?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Madam Speaker, the far-reaching Memorandum of Understanding with Alberta includes a number of timelines. I invite the members to read it. By July 1st of next year is when a pipeline proposal will come from the province of Alberta. There are timelines, and we are seeing that not just talk about pipelines, but talks about AI data centers, nuclear energy, many ways we can grow the Canadian economy in a clean way, in a big way, in a way that doesn't rely as much on the United States of America. This is a good day for Alberta. This is a good day for Canada. I invite the members opposite to get on board.
The Honourable Member for Cloverdale, Langley City.
Madam Speaker, the Liberal government isn't just divided, it's cracking. BC Liberal MPs are publicly venting Unnamed ministers are warning of serious problems, and now their Quebec lieutenant has walked out of cabinet entirely. But while the Prime Minister struggles to hold his team together, Canadians are left paying the price. We sell almost all our oil to one customer, the U.S., because we have no pipeline to the Pacific. When will the Prime Minister stop putting political damage control ahead of the national interest and give us a date when the pipeline will be built?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Madam Speaker, the Liberal caucus is only cracking open wide enough to welcome Conservatives to come join us. My honourable colleague would like a date for a pipeline to the West Coast. How about May of last year when the Trans Mountain expansion got new Canadian products to markets, which is driving up the price of Canadian resources? The Conservatives have failed to get anything built when they were last in government because they ignored the role of provinces, because they ignored the rights of Indigenous peoples in this country. By working together with different levels of government and Indigenous rights holders, we are able to advance major projects. This is not some idea. This is our...
The Honourable Member for Cloverdale, Langley City.
Madam Speaker, a pipeline to the West Coast isn't just another project. It's a nation-building decision that falls squarely under the federal government's authority. Canadians expect the Prime Minister to act, but instead, he's given the NDP Premier of BC a veto in an effort to manage the uproar in his caucus, a caucus that's now losing senior ministers over the issue. Madam Speaker, when will the Prime Minister stop passing the buck and use the federal authority that rests with him alone to ensure this pipeline gets built?
The Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, she's talking about the constitutional authority of the Prime Minister. If she actually read the entirety of the section that she's referring to, she would notice that it also gives the constitutional authority to provincial governments to build or not build the infrastructure, the roads, the electricity, the water services that it would make possible to have a pipeline actually operate in the first place. In addition, Madam Speaker, Section 35 of that very same Constitution demands that governments respect the inherent and treaty rights of Indigenous peoples in this country, including by consulting them on advancing major projects. By working together, we can get big things done. That's a path.
The Honourable Member for Dartmouth, Cold Harbour.
Madam Speaker, Atlantic Canada is a culture of innovation, and my riding of Dartmouth Coal Harbour is home to leading ocean technology and maritime defence researchers and innovators, many of them located strategically along the shores of beautiful Dartmouth Cove. These companies and partners are driving major advances in ocean tech and strengthening Canada's national defence and security. Can the Minister highlight the work the government is doing to support these important security and defence initiatives in Dartmouth Coal Harbour?
The Honourable Minister of Defence.
Madam Speaker, I thank this member for his work and for his advocacy for Atlantic Canadian excellence. This past weekend, we announced Canada's first Maritime Defence Innovation Secure Hub, or DISH, at Cove in Dartmouth Coal Harbour. This is a brand new $30 million hub will bring together for the first time defence and security partners, industry, academia, naval operators to develop, to test and transition new maritime technologies. Madam Speaker, from coast to coast to coast, we are investing millions in building up a resilient innovation industry right here at home.
Honourable Member for Calgary, Nose Hill.
Madam Speaker, millions of Canadians don't have a family doctor, and Canada's emergency rooms are overflowing. But non-citizens who've had their asylum claims rejected are eligible for all sorts of federal health benefits that Canadians aren't, like mental health support and vision care. It's unfair to offer people with no legal reason to be in Canada better federal health benefits than Canadians have access to. Why are the Liberals giving bogus asylum claimants who have no legal reason to be in Canada access to better health services than Canadians rather than simply deporting them?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, the Minister of Immigration.
Madam Speaker, the member knows very well that those who are not eligible to be here will face the consequences of Canadian law, Mr. Speaker. We trust authorities to carry that out. As for services in this country, we understand that there's been a strain on services and that the immigration system has a part to play in that. What's also at stake, Madam Speaker, is that we put policy on the table to address those issues. A sustainable, responsible immigration system is exactly what we're pursuing to address those service challenges.
People with no legal right to be in Canada should not have access to federal health benefits.
Right. Yes.
The Liberals have given a Dutch Somali national who gave multiple false names and birth dates to immigration officers, have also lied about being in a polygamous marriage, yet another chance to stay in Canada. Lying to immigration officers should immediately invalidate somebody's ability to stay in Canada. The decision to let someone enter or stay in Canada should be made on truthful information. This is a no-brainer. Why are the Liberals rewarding non-citizen liars with the right to stay in Canada?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Madam Speaker, I say this with all due respect. This is the immigration critic for the Conservative Party for almost 10 years. She knows very well that when new information comes in, it can lead to the cancellation of existing visas that allow individuals to be here in the first place. And so when we understand these matters, we leave it in the hands of authorities to address those matters. On this side of the House, we are continuing to be seized with the importance of ensuring a sustainable, responsible immigration system that's focused on the economy from the beginning to end, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Calgary-Nose Hill.
Well, in that case, the government found out that this person was a polygamist, lied about it, and still let them stay here. So, Mr. Speaker, we also this week heard the Liberals argue against my bill, which would remove the ability of activists, judges, and lawyers to give leniency to non-citizens convicted of serious crimes like sexual assault. And for a non-citizen, being able to stay in Canada should be considered a privilege, not a right. Non-citizens convicted of sexual assault or those who were caught lying about polygamy shouldn't be rewarded with this ability to stay in Canada. They should be removed. It's a no-brainer.
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
The member is or should be aware of the landmark Supreme Court decision of 2013 that says that the courts and judges in particular can take note of the immigration status of an individual, but cannot use that to condition sentencing in a way that would avoid immigration consequences, Madam Speaker. This is not a serious question, Madam Speaker. The point is that if we're going to do immigration policy seriously in this country, we have to make sure that we allow
the Honourable Member for Markham-Stouffville.
Madam Speaker, Canada has what the world needs and wants: the best educated workforce in the world, free trade agreements with every G7 country, an abundance of natural resources, world-class innovators, entrepreneurs and exporters. And thanks to Budget 2025, Canada will have the lowest marginal effective tax rate in the G7. Unlike the members opposite, I'm proud to have voted in favour of a budget that will boost productivity and attract investments. Can the Parliamentary Secretary remind this House exactly what those who...
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Speaker, that the Conservatives will talk down our industries and workers every chance they get. That may help generate clicks and fundraising emails, but it won't build Canada strong. So while they're in the business of saying no, we're in the business of saying yes. Yes to productivity tax deductions for businesses. Yes to making it easier for Canadian companies to invest in machinery, equipment, and technology to help them grow and thrive. Yes to catalyzing investments to supercharge productivity in Canada. When we say yes to Canada and to Canadians, Conservatives say no. Maybe that's why Canadians keep saying no every time the Conservatives...
The Honourable Member for Vaughan Woodbridge.
So every time the Prime Minister talks trade, it seems Brookfield comes out ahead and Canadians get left behind. Travels to Washington, Brookfield got an $80 billion nuclear deal. Traveled to the UK, Brookfield got money from the EU Space Agency. He hosts Swedish royalty in Canada. Brookfield announces an AI deal even before they land back in Stockholm. Now he's forcing Alberta to put money into carbon capture programs in exchange for a pipeline. And guess who has a major stake in the sector? Brookfield. Madam Speaker, when he said he would build at scale not seen in generations, did he really mean just for Brookfield?
The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House.
Madam Speaker, on this side of the House, count us a little perplexed as to the approach of the Conservatives in question period today. First, we have the news of 2.6% growth in our economy, which leads all published data in the G7. We signed a landmark agreement with the province of Alberta yesterday that will secure an economic future for families, for children, for people looking for jobs, and an economic future across the prairies and into British Columbia. Madam Speaker, it is shameful that this Conservative Party sets up their tinfoil hats.
Honourable Member for Nunavut.
This summer, a cargo ship went aground in the Franklin Strait, a rare occurrence. With climate change, the Northwest Passage has become more accessible. Nunavut relies heavily on ship diesel, and the risk of damaging the pristine waters is increasing. Mapping the seafloor will ensure more predictable navigation. Will the minister commit to funding Arctic bathymetry as a multi-use project to keep Canada's sovereignty over the Arctic?
The Honourable Government House Leader. Now, the Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Madam Speaker, with our Arctic foreign policy, we are continually ensuring that the sovereignty and the livelihood of the Arctic is protected. That is why we are putting on the table $80 billion for defense spending. In conjunction with Indigenous peoples, we are going to make sure that we protect the Arctic and we defend the Arctic, and we will do so with our international allies. I'll be traveling to NATO next week to have those.
The Honourable Member for Vancouver East.
Behind closed doors, without BC and First Nations at the table, the Prime Minister agreed to lift the tanker ban, put at risk the way of life of coastal communities, bring in a new fossil fuel subsidy at the expense of renewable energy and clean technologies, and move Canada further away from its greenhouse gas reductions targets. The Prime Minister says they will not proceed without the consent of BC and free, prior, informed consent of First Nations. But nowhere is this spelled out in the MOU. Why?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Indigenous treaty rights do not need to be spelled out in MOUs. They are inherent. But I do want to talk a little bit about the MOU and what the MOU allows. The MOU allows us to have a durable climate plan, one that moves the effective price of carbon in Alberta from $25 to $130. It allows us to reduce methane emissions by 75%. It allows us to take carbon out of the air through carbon capture, and it does that in a way that says that there are going to be ongoing reviews to make sure those commitments towards net zero in 2050 are maintained. This is great news for the climate, and I encourage everybody in this House.
This is the end of oral questions.
Oops. All right, gang, we're going to flip over to this right quick. This is a committee meeting that we're going to have introduced by our guy, Andrew Lawton, and then it's just a quick piece. This meeting was actually 2 hours long, but I was able to condense the chatting down to 8 minutes. So let's get into this. Come on.
The House of Commons Justice Committee is set to meet this afternoon. Now, this is going to shock you. What the Liberals are trying to do is ram through their censorship bill, C9. This is their so-called anti-hate bill, which the Minister of Justice admits will allow people to be criminally prosecuted for what they post online, bringing in UK-style tweet policing to Canada. The Liberals just want us to wave this through. They want us to give them a rubber stamp, a green light to make this law as quickly as possible, even though we have not had the opportunity to do the proper scrutiny of this bill that parliamentarians are supposed to be able to do. So just to take a step back here, we were supposed to have 5 meetings where we would hear from witnesses who would bring forward their concerns. We had suggested a number of witnesses representing civil liberties groups on the left and right. And 2 of the meetings on this, the last 2 weeks, the Liberals have filibustered it, so we have not gotten to actually hear from the witnesses. Now, why were they filibustering it? It actually has nothing to do with Bill C9. It was because the Liberals were too busy not wanting to support the Conservative motion condemning light jail sentences for people who traffic in child sexual abuse and exploitation material. The Liberals should have just agreed to that motion, standing up for children, and then we could have gotten back on with our work on C9. But that didn't happen. So here we are. We have been denied 2 critical meetings, 6 hours of witness testimony, and today the Liberals expect that we're just going to be able to put a big check mark beside C9, a bill that civil liberties groups have said should send a chill, and does actually chill, free speech in Canada. So we are not going to let that happen. I'm going into this committee room and I'm going to tell the Liberals that we need to be focused on the actual justice priorities that Canadians have identified. Let's get back to our bail study. Police, cities, provinces, they've all been speaking up saying that cities and communities and streets do not feel safe. We have bail legislation that the Liberal government says will answer these problems, and for some reason they're too hung up on wanting to censor what people are saying online rather than actually discussing bail and sentencing reform. So what we're going to do is say that this committee should actually be allowed to do its work properly, and on Bill C9, we should not even entertain passing this bill through committee until we've had the opportunity to hear from all of the witnesses who want to testify. So stay tuned. Justice Committee today starts at 3:30 p.m.
Order. Welcome to the extended resuming of meeting number 12 of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Justice and Human Rights. Today's meeting is being held in hybrid format with Mr. Housefather, I see, attending remotely. He's aware of all the rules regarding Zoom and how to lift your hand, how not to lift your hand, how to speak into microphones and such, so I won't go over those laboriously. Encore une fois, avant de continuer, je confirme que les tests de son.
Before continuing, I'd like to confirm that the tests have been carried out, and I'd call on all participants in person to consult the guidelines written on the cards on the table for the benefit of our interpreters.
The debate on the suspended meeting, so the sub-amendment that was put forth by Mr. Lawton. I will go directly to you, Mr. Lawton, and then we can take it from there. So the floor is yours, Andrew.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is the third meeting that we have devoted to what should be very simple, a denunciation across party lines of child sexual exploitation, a call on the House of Commons to reinstate mandatory minimum sentences so that people are not given shamefully lenient sentences, as was the case in the 2 extremely egregious criminal offenses that went ultimately before the Supreme Court and led to the decision that triggered this. Now, the sub-amendment, assuming it is adopted and the amendment and the motion are adopted, is very simple. It is a call that the House invoke the notwithstanding clause, that the government rather invoke the notwithstanding clause, reinstate the mandatory minimums, and that this committee's call to such is reported to the House. This is an important procedural tool that allows the House of Commons to give this issue due attention and due consideration. So I believe we should vote on this immediately, and I call on all committee members to pass the sub-amendment and then the motion. Thank you, Chair.
For the sake of clarity, Andrew, and rest of members, I will just have the clerk read out formally the amendment, the sub-amendment, so that we all, for clarity, know what we're voting on, and then, absent any other hands, I'll ask the committee to proceed to a vote. So to get a few. Let's just make Mr. Housefather's back on. I just ask members to perhaps forget the last 6 minutes. Ms. Latancia's withdrawing the sub-amendment as it stands. So where we stand now technically is discussion and vote on the amendment to the motion. I'm glad to have the clerk read it entirely back to everyone as amended, just for clarity, or we could proceed to debate and a vote.
No new sub-amendment?
There's no new sub-amendment. Yeah, let's just...
You're withdrawing?
Let's pretend that never happened, yeah.
But I'm sorry if I led to confusion, so I'm just, if the clerk wants to read that amendment, we're ready to vote on the amendment. Sorry.
For debate and discussion, I see none. So I'll ask all those in favor to say yay, lift your hands. All those against, say nay. The yeas have it.
Chair,
Yeah, Ms. Latanzio.
I'd like to introduce an amendment.
Okay, we have Ms. Latanzio. Was that you, Larry? Was that you?
I had my hand up, but you recognize Patricia.
Yeah, I saw
first.
Patricia. I didn't know if it was you or Roman.
Sorry?
I didn't know if it was you or Roman.
It was me.
Okay.
It was me.
So, Patrice.
An amendment to what? Oh.
We have an amended motion. I'm making another amendment. Okay. So starting with right after reported to the House, we add the following paragraph, and that the meeting of this Thursday, November 20th, be the final meeting with witnesses on Bill C9. Clause by clause on Bill C9 will commence on Thursday, November 27th, and continue for as many meetings as required without interruption by any other subject. The deadline to submit amendments to Bill C9 will be on Monday, November 24th at 4 p.m.
Merci, Madame Latanzio.
Thank you, Ms. Latanzio. The clerk, please. Did everyone receive a copy of that amendment?
Get this, yeah. It should be coming to your inboxes. But in the interim, I'll suspend so that everyone can have a chance to review it and consider it. Thank you. Mr. House, thank you. Welcome, Mr. Housefather. Where are we? We suspended on the amendment that Ms. Latanzio put forward. We're now at the stage of debate or discussion on the topic. Je vois Monsieur Brock, puis ensuite vous, Monsieur Fortin.
Mr. Brock, then you, Mr. Fortin.
Thank you, Chair. I would state at the outset, I've reviewed the content of the sub-amendment proposed by the Liberal team, and it is completely outside the scope of what the original motion was about, not even closely resembles the intent and any aspect of the original motion. And quite frankly, what it does in terms of abbreviating the time set aside that was originally set aside for the study of C9 is a complete slap in the face and disrespectful to witnesses who had actually attended and ultimately could not testify, witnesses that were scheduled to attend today and had to be canceled. C9 is an important study, and we all agree to that study. We agree to prioritize that study. We all agree to the number of meetings. So for the life of me, I cannot accept that the position of the Liberal team that we should be shortchanging those witnesses who deserve and have an absolute right to testify if they've been invited to attend. So my first line of attack, Chair, is that this particular motion is complete, or this amendment is completely outside the scope, and I'd be asking for a ruling accordingly from the Chair.
I will rule on it if, but first I think Mr. Fortin and Ms. Latanzio wanted to speak on this, but I will rule on it. Réal, à toi.
No need. Thank you. You wanted to raise the same point as your colleague. Ms. Latanzio.
Remind the member opposite and the Conservative team that when this motion was brought forward, we were actually on the study.
It is not a debatable motion, Chair.
I can allow some comments on it since Mr. Brock, right, but he didn't move immediately. He gave commentary, Mr. Brock gave commentary on introducing the motion. I think Ms. Latanzio has a right to reply, but I will proceed to the ruling right after that.
Chair, so as I was saying, when this motion was brought forth, you will recall that we were on a study on C9, and the motion, if it happens now to have nothing to do with C9, was brought forward while we were studying C9. And so I think it is more than relevant that this amendment be brought forward. But I'd also like to remind the members that today was also supposed to be a day on the study of C9. as per our schedule, and a schedule that had been agreed with all members in good faith. And here we are discussing another motion that had nothing to do, supposedly, with C9. So, Mr. Chair, I would indulge and ask you to rule in favor of the relevancy of incorporating my amendment into this amendment.
So the motion is indeed not in order and out of scope. So technically, we go back to the motion as amended to vote on or to have discussion and debate on. So are there any hands wanting to discuss the motion as amended?
Could you please read the motion that is before?
We'll get the clerk to read.
Thank you.
For clarity, because this is getting increasingly...
And then I would ask for a brief suspension after the motion has been read in its current form, please.
Okay. Allez-y, Monsieur le Greffier.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Go ahead, Mr. Clerk.
The vote, just to be entirely clear, and assuming I don't see any heads nodding in the wrong direction, so I'll assume that is a yes. We can have debate or proceed directly to a vote, so I'll ask for any hands to debate on this motion. C'est bon. Okay, all those in favor of the motion as amended, please raise your hands.
The amendment.
As amended. No, hang on. All those against? Okay, the motion, the ayes have it, the motion is carried. The entire motion as amended. Yeah.
The original motion and the amended motion is now carried. Not just the amendment.
No. There's a misunderstanding here from.
We're supposed to vote.
Not an
amendment.
On the motion as amended.
Mr. But then we have to go back to the main motion.
No.
Once everything's complete.
Mr. Chair.
No, my amendment, I put it. Sorry, can we suspend, Mr. Chair?
Is this on this issue? Okay, well, I just wanted to get back to this issue and confirm to the team or the group here that the vote is carried. I do want to tell the team that, or members of this committee, that the date for amendments on C9 is Monday the 24th. And on that note, we're now adjourned.
All right, gang. So in case anybody wasn't aware, they start early on Friday, so we're 3 hours ahead. I try to let people know that. But if you're interested in seeing what happened in question period, just zip back on the timeline, like grab it and pull it back. We had a very interesting pre-show, some great clips from committee. Happy Friday, everybody. Aaron right here, Canadian Looney. Get your Canadian federal politics right here. I'm pretty confident that we've got the best pre-question period show like that is done live. I work very hard at gathering the material for it. And I try to bring the most interesting pieces, the stuff that I learn the most from, or I find is most controversial or enjoyable or funny, whatever it is. That's it, though. Thank God it's Friday. Thank you all for tuning in. Like I say, if anybody is just tuning in late, zip back on that timeline and watch everything because the show is pretty good. Question period was good today. And I'd like to thank you all so much for watching. Yeah, we're just doing this little thing, showing you what I'm learning about Canadian federal politics. I've been doing this for a couple of years by now, and when I started, I had no idea, no clue, anything like that. We've got caught up. We caught up. Like, I know the channel comes off as very conservative. I'm interested in change. I'm afraid of these liberals, straight up. Like, it's a weird time in Canada, and the only way we're going to get out from underneath this elephant that's squashing us is to vote them out. Like, and they're trying to take away all of our rights, everything, man. It's not a coincidence that there's a housing crisis, a health crisis, a food cost crisis, an immigration crisis, a crime wave, all of these things. They're doing a gun buyback, so we can't defend ourselves. Like, it's crazy. Anyhow. Thank you all so much for watching. To the new viewers, we do a show every day, like before the question period. And it's interesting. I think we've been doing that for about 6 weeks now, 4 weeks. And it seems to be doing well. I find it interesting and more people are catching on. What's up, Gabe Lee? How you doing? Good to see you. That is it, guys. We're out for now. We'll go out on Romper Room as we usually do. Thank you all so much for watching. Kirk and Rhonda, appreciate all the help and support. And to all the regular viewers, I enjoy hanging out with you guys during question period. You crack me up, man. You're a funny bunch. I know you're smart. You're informed. If you're watching this stuff, it doesn't take long to catch on to the fact that they're trying to dupe all of Canadians for the sake of what? Like, so we can become some European country, part of the WEF, ruled by China? Doesn't make sense to me. That's it. We're wrapping up. Aaron, Canadian Looney. Thank you all for watching. Have a great weekend, guys. There'll be more videos being dropped over the weekend. There's been a lot going on in Canadian politics. Gibby's gone. Jolie's gone. Freeland's gone. So we only need another 35 ministers to get the hell out of Dodge. Then we got to clear the backbench. We need an election. Wonder when we're going to get one of those. Have a great weekend, guys. We're heading out. Like, share, subscribe.
You should do exercises. That's important to our good health. And friends, tomorrow we are going to be visiting with a fisherman who will tell us about his very enjoyable hobby. Now, I would like to see you all through our magic mirror. Romper bumper, stomper boo, tell me, do. Magic mirror, please tell me today, did all of my friends have fun at play? I see all of my friends in Alberta. It's nice to see you. And I see Dan and Vivian. I see Marlon and Mona. I see Catherine and Harley. I see Anne and Elizabeth and Jane. I see Bert and Nicole. And I see you too. I hope to see you tomorrow, right here in Romper Room.
Bing bong, knock knock, hey daddy do. Bing bong, tick tock, bebop boom.
Kick off your weekend with exciting CFL action when the Edmonton Eskimos tackle the BC Lions in Vancouver. Tomorrow night at 10:30 on CFTO TV.
Ding dong, knock knock, hey daddy do. Tip tap, pitter pat, granny cat too. Rooty toot, kimble, loopy loo. Bobbity stompity, romper room and friends.
I really do have a lot of fun doing this live show. It's awesome. I've got a great team here of moderators, and the chat room is just so much fun. It cracks me up all the time. Like, it helps me vent my frustration, because it is frustrating when you watch this much. Have a good weekend, everybody. We're out.